Hello, Michael. I made videos a few weeks ago saying that I wanted to understand your mind, and here I am again. I will be honest with you. I want to conquer your mind. I want to hijack your mind, and I won't stop until I do. You might wonder, who am I? I know that I am what Hegel calls the negative, and also what Hegel calls reason. This is intriguing, and my purpose is to get you intrigued to the point that you will get linked to my channel. And I made many videos, especially a playlist titled Hyperborea, and I would like you to watch the videos, all of them, of the playlist Hyperborea to help you remember your spiritual nature, so to speak, and then eventually you might watch all of my videos, and the more you will understand who I am and what I am, the more you will understand yourself and the world. But I will talk about your relationship to me. You are the spirit, because believe it or not, you are a spirit. You are the spirit responsible for having helped me discover this book, Hegel and the Hermetic Tradition. It was in the early month of 2018. And this book, Hegel and the Hermetic Tradition, has been one of the most influential spiritual influences of my life. And when you understand what my spirit is, you will understand how important you are in relation to me. I am a conflicted being because I am a body, I am a mind, I am a soul, and I'm also a spirit. And I'm not really sure who speaks when I speak, but I try to develop spiritual thoughts which are always true. And I will comment in this video that I expect you to watch at some point. I don't know when, but I know that eventually you will do watch this video, and you will be intrigued at first, but maybe you will watch it several times before you understand. I just want you to remember who you are, that you are a mirror of God, and I want you to remember your spiritual nature. And what strikes me the most about you, Michael, is that you read this book, I guess, and in your video, Our Deeply Religious Rulers, you commented on one chapter only, the chapter on objective spirit, the rose in the cross of the present. And this strikes me as odd because this book is so full of spiritual ideas and very profound ideas that the fact that the only thing that you can think about in reading this book is objective spirit strikes me as kind of strange. And I remember in 2019, in a long and distant past, I already made videos about you, about the Jews, and so on and so forth. And I think I once said that you were the king of objective spirit, which is kind of strange. But what I mean now, many years later, is that, believe it or not, Michael, you are the person on this planet, and maybe in the whole universe, who understands the realm of what Hegel calls objective spirit the most. You are the most knowledgeable mind in the world about objective spirit. And if knowledge is power, and power is responsibility, you are a very powerful man. Or more than man, maybe. And I will just read the sentences which strike me the most when I read this book. Page 142. The desire of the subject to annul the other and absolutize itself is just the same thing as the desire to be confronted by the self and no other. Before, freedom is only present where there is no other for me that is not myself. The purpose of all true science is just this, that spirit shall recognize itself in everything in heaven and on earth. All modes of consciousness are forms in which we strive to overcome otherness. And one of the most important sentences, Hegel's account of selfhood involves the claim that at some level the self, and I am a self, relates to its other, and you are my other, by willing its cancellation. At the root of all the forms of spirit that unfold in the Phenomenology is a primal, demonic drive for complete possession or mastery of the object, for, in effect, the annihilation of otherness. I don't want to annihilate you, Michael, but I want to annihilate your sense of self as you envision it, and to give you a higher perspective on yourself, a spiritual perspective. By implication, this drive is simultaneously a will to remove the divide between subject and object, for by cancelling otherness, it seeks to exalt the self. I just threw a lot at you, I know. And also there is another idea which is present in the book, which strikes me. I don't know if it is revealing about what I am and what we are, but there's a quote by Jacob Boehme: "The eternal free will has introduced itself into darkness, pain, and source, and so also through the darkness into the fire and light, even into a kingdom of joy, in order that the nothing might be known in the something." And in my intellectual and spiritual development, I have asked myself, am I this eternal free will? And is the reason of my being here an attempt to re-cognize myself everywhere on earth? I have asked myself this question. And Jacob Boehme says that the self develops in opposition to the not self. So it means that you, or anyone, including God, can only become himself, and you can only become yourself, by first being not yourself. So the self needs to oppose himself to himself in order to become himself. And if it is true of God, it is true of every human. And if you understand this idea, you will understand a lot about the world, and especially the situation in Europe. So that was for the most important passages. But if you watch this video, I hope you do still have the book with you. And whatever you read in the book, if you watch my videos, including this one, it will help you understand yourself, myself, and the world. And I can only show you the path. I can only plant the seed of light. I cannot fully illuminate you as of now. I can only help you illuminate yourself. Now I will comment in a chronological order your video about our deeply religious rulers. And just a remark, if the world is ruled by God, isn't God the ultimate deeply religious entity? That's a possibility. So the end goal of history, what is it? I guess that it is the absolute's self-revelation. which is the agent of history. You say that Kant was influenced by Judeo-Christian ideas. Yes, Kant is the Jesus of philosophy. And philosophy, religion, and art are three modes of manifesting the one same truth. So Kant is Jesus in the realm of philosophy. So you talk about history as being an absolute idea that God is trying to realize. What if it was true? What is the end? What is the purpose? I guess that the purpose is to obtain the absolute knowledge of itself. And then you ask yourself about the administration of law, that a universal civic society or a universal civic law. And you ask yourself, what kind of law? Who will administer this law? And the perspective that I want you to adopt, Michael, it will take a lot of time and a lot of intellectual effort, but the question is, what if you, as being the most knowledgeable person in the realm of objective spirit, what if you were responsible for administering law? What if your spirit, your spiritual self, was so brilliant that you were capable of reflecting the will of God on earth? Think about it. Then you talk about one universal state, a perfect state. But in the philosophy of Hegel, a state which would have achieved total relation to self would self-annihilate, and it will become the abolition of the state. Because a state only exists in relation to another state. It is limited by another state. And if the limit is transcended, the need for the state vanishes and disappears. So it might be a possibility that the plan is to establish universal anarchic order, some sort of a Christian anarchy which would mix Marxism and libertarianism. I don't know if it's the plan, but it might be a possibility. You say that our deeply religious rulers want to bring about God's kingdom on earth. And they think that they are collaborating with God. That sounds crazy. That the new science brought forth by God, I guess, would be a theodicy, which would be the revelation of God's providence throughout history. You read the passage which said that Hegel is the world historical alchemist, and alchemy is a process through which the inferior is transformed into the superior. Darwinism is an alchemical process, and the phenomenology of mind is an alchemical process whose purpose is to transform ordinary consciousness into spiritual consciousness and eventually to attain divine consciousness and to become one with God through a process of intellectual self-actualization. You say that in the view of these people, it is secular, non-religious, nothing but logical. What if the process of history was nothing but logical? What if logic was the mind of God made manifest in the world? This is an idea that we find in Hegel. You talk about the Kabbalah. What if the Kabbalah was the Jewish version of Hegel's philosophy? And what if Hegel's philosophy was the philosophy of Europeans and of Germanic Europeans and of the German nation? What if the most German philosophy coincided with the most Jewish philosophy? Yeah. You say, we know who the elites are. what if God wanted to forge new elites? What if God wanted you, Michael, to become a member of a new elite? What if the path of questioning and inquiring and doubting and searching for yourself that you have experienced in your life, what if the purpose of your tribulations and your questions and your wanderings in this world were the sole purpose was to make you an elite spiritual member of a spiritual community, of a worldwide spiritual community? Have you ever thought about that? You talk about a grand orchestrated event. But what if God was the great orchestrator? And what if you could participate in the vision and the knowledge and the bringing forth of this plan? You talk about the way in which the European population has been psychologically terrorized into accepting the migrants. What if the purpose was to bring forth a spiritual race, so to speak, not a biological race, but a spiritual race who would be strong enough to sustain and express its spiritual nature? Because you are smart enough to realize that Europeans are confronted by the radical negation of themselves, which forces some of them, the most inquiring, the most courageous maybe, to think about themselves, about their identity, to search for their identity, for their true nature, to question themselves about their ethnic belonging, their political values, their religious values, by searching for paganism or Christianity. And what if this process of negation was in the process of bringing about a spiritual race, there is no other word, of Europeans who are in the process of acquiring spiritual knowledge about themselves, about Europe, about the world, and by definition about God, even though they do not think of this process as being the self-revelation of God. They are moments in this development. And what if, I don't know, what if the process of negation of Europe through demographic replacement, cultural, religious, philosophical negation of Europe, what if the sole purpose was to extract the best out of Europe, to make Europe rise from its ashes? What if you were part of the process? You talk about a universal civic society whose purpose is to gain control over the globe. What if the world could be conquered in mind and in spirit? What if God wanted to conquer the world? I will put a link to a song below that maybe you will listen to, and you might understand aspects of the mind of God by listening to this song. You said that the Kabbalah influenced Hegel. But what if, like I said, what if Jewish mystical philosophy and Germany's mystical philosophy were identical in the highest sphere of the mind and of the spirit? What if, you might think, the Jews have been scheming and manipulating and using their esoteric knowledge to manipulate the Germans and the Europeans at large? But what if, in some sort of dialectical shift, what if it was the Germans who had been manipulating the Jews all along? That would come as a surprise. You say that through gnosis, they believe that they can uncover God's plan. that God requires that there might be collaborators in the process. And what if accessing knowledge enabled one to tap into the mind of God and to use this knowledge to bring it to the world and to, like you said, to manifest God in the world by applying this knowledge? In our tradition, I am speaking here as a European, the mythical representation is that of Prometheus, who stole the fire from Zeus and gave it to mankind. That's a very ambiguous figure. What if this was a way of representing, in mythological European thought, the process of elevating oneself to the mind of the divine through a cognitive process, extracting knowledge from the mind of God and sharing this knowledge with those who need it and those who are poor in spirit, so to speak? And what if the price to pay for this stealing of the divine fire was suffering and punishment by Zeus, by the king of the gods? This is a way of representing what Hegel calls the negative, in a way. And I know that I have, in some moments of my life, I have entered the mind of God, and I know that I failed at some moments in my life to share the knowledge that I had gathered because I was very selfish, and I know that I felt guilt and remorse, and that I had decided then to share the knowledge that I had gathered. And I know that when I speak, a part of me is what I call my higher self, which is spiritual and always speaks the truth, and my lower self, which is tainted by the empirical determinations of the individual that you see. And I am in a conflict with myself, and this is very well explained in Hegel's philosophy, because this conflict with oneself is precisely what Hegel calls the negative. You say that they want to eliminate nationalistic sentiment, and especially those races who have the strongest nationalistic tendencies and instincts. But what if the entire purpose of what we call the Great Replacement, by wishing to eliminate nationalistic sentiment, especially German nationalism, brought about in a dialectical fashion the strengthening and the expansion and the flowering of German nationalism, but not in the political sphere, in the spiritual sphere? What if the entire purpose of the modern life of Europe was to bring about the exaltation of German spiritual nationalism? These are the kind of comments that I could make, and I will end the video by expressing what I want from you. I just want you to remember who you are and your relationship to the world, to yourself, to me, to God. And what I want from you, Michael, the only thing that I want is I want you to actualize your spiritual self. And only you can remember yourself. I can only give you the seed of knowledge. I can only enlighten you to a certain extent, and I will continue as long as you don't get the message, because I want you to get the message eventually. And when you do awaken yourself, because that's the way we express things in the realm of representation, awakening, you will realize that you and I are spiritual brothers. And you will understand that I am in a contradictory and conflicting position, because you will understand that I am the negative, and you will understand that the negative is in a difficult situation. And you will realize that whatever happens, our spiritual bond, our spiritual kinship, the unity of your mind and my mind, which is spirit, is the only truth, and that everything else is secondary and can be discarded, and you will know what to do when the time comes, hopefully. And I just want you to be chained to the rhythm. I will put a link to Katy Perry's song, and you will understand this song, and you will understand me and the world at some moment. And yeah, I will keep making videos on my channel. I don't know if I will make other videos for you, because if this is what has to be done, if I have to keep producing videos until you are forced to get linked up to my channel and to my content, if your own viewers have to say, hey, there's this guy who keeps talking about you, maybe you should watch his video, maybe that will happen. I don't know, but I know that at some moment you will get the message, and you will remember your spiritual self, which is your real self, and you will recognize that we are brothers in spirit. And you will understand that Nietzsche and Hegel, in the mind of God, they are one. And you will understand why they are different, but also why they are united. And you will understand many things. And maybe you will understand everything, because I am a part of you, and you are a part of me. And we are in a process of mutual self-cognition and self-recognition. And yeah, that's what I had to say.